Imagine this. You're at a sleek electronics store, about to finalize that big purchase. The cashier smiles and says, "Just need to scan your driver's license for our records." Or you're checking into a hotel, and they ask to hold your ID at the front desk. You hand it over without a second thought. What if that single, mundane act just put your entire financial identity, your privacy, and your legal safety at risk? This isn't paranoia. It's a daily legal loophole millions fall into. And as a lawyer, I've seen the devastating consequences firsthand. Audience engagement question. What's the one question you should always ask before handing over your ID? Drop your guess in the comments below before reading on, and let's see who gets it right. Don't forget to subscribe for more crucial legal insights that mainstream advice never tells you. Introduction: the illusion of obligation. In an increasingly documented world, the request for identification has become as routine as a greeting. We present our driver's licenses, passports, and national ID cards to rent a movie in the past, board a plane, enter a bar, collect a parcel, and even for some retail transactions. This societal reflex is so ingrained that questioning it feels rude, suspicious, or unnecessarily difficult. We operate under a vague assumption that if an official, seeming person asks, they must have a right to see it, and we have a legal obligation to comply. This assumption is not just incorrect. It is dangerously so. From a legal perspective, surrendering your government-issued identification is one of the most significant actions you can take in a civilian context. That plastic card is a master key. It doesn't just prove you are who you say you are. It provides a direct link to a treasure trove of personal data: your full name, date of birth, current address, a unique identification number, your signature, and often your physical characteristics. In the wrong hands, or even in the careless hands of a legitimate business, this data becomes the foundation for identity theft, fraud, stalking, and profound privacy invasions. This article will dissect the legal landscape surrounding ID requests. We will move beyond the simple "you have rights" platitudes and provide a practical, legally grounded framework for understanding when you must show ID, when you can refuse, and the single most important question you must always ask to shield yourself. We'll explore the constitutional principles at stake, the patchwork of state and federal laws, the hidden risks in common scenarios, and the precise language to use to assert your rights without turning a simple interaction into a confrontation. Part 1. The legal foundation. When are you legally required to show ID? This is the critical starting point. Your obligation to identify yourself is not universal. It is triggered by specific legal circumstances. Confusing a company policy with state law is the first error we must correct. 1.1. The Stop and Identify laws. Interaction with law enforcement. This is the most legally complex area. The foundational rule comes from the Fourth Amendment, which protects against unreasonable searches and seizures. A mere police request for ID is generally considered a consensual encounter, which you can walk away from. However, the waters muddy quickly. Terry stops, investigative detentions, if an officer has reasonable articulable suspicion that you have been, or are about to be involved in criminal activity, they can briefly detain you. Terry versus Ohio. Many states have stop and identify statutes that, during such a lawful detention, require you to provide your name. Some states extend this to providing ID. Crucially, the officer must have that initial suspicion before demanding ID. You cannot be detained solely for refusing to identify yourself where no suspicion exists. Arrests. Upon a lawful arrest, you are unequivocally required to identify yourself. Traffic stops. This is a clear-cut detention. When driving a vehicle, you are legally obligated to provide your driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance upon request. This is a condition of the privilege of driving. Key takeaway. For law enforcement, ask calmly, "Officer, am I being detained?" or "Am I free to go?" If you're not being detained, you're generally not obligated to provide ID. If you are detained, state laws vary, but providing your name is often safest to avoid obstruction charges. Know your state's specific statute. 1.2 Specific, regulated transactions. The law mandates ID verification for certain high-stakes or age-restricted activities. Purchasing alcohol, tobacco, firearms. Sellers are legally required to verify age. Boarding an airplane. Federal regulations, TSA, require valid ID. Entering federal buildings/courthouses. Security protocols require screening and ID. Banks and financial institutions. The Know Your Customer (KYC) and Anti-Money Laundering (AML) regulations require ID for opening accounts and certain transactions. Notaries public. They must verify the identity of the person signing a document. In these scenarios, refusal to provide valid ID means denial of service or access. It's a clear trade-off. Part 2. The gray zone, when it's a request, not a requirement. This is where 95% of daily interactions fall, and where most people surrender their rights unknowingly. Retail stores. A store asking to scan your license for a return, especially without a receipt, or for purchasing certain items like spray paint or certain cold medicines. This is almost always store policy, not law. They can refuse the transaction if you say no, but you have no legal duty to comply. Nightclubs and bars. At the door, private property owners can set conditions for entry, including showing ID. You can refuse, but they can refuse entry. Landlords and property managers. While they have a legitimate need to verify identity and run background/credit checks during the application process, be vigilant about where and how that data is stored afterwards. Hotels. They have a legitimate need to register a guest. Most states have laws requiring them to record a guest's name and address. Taking a copy or impounding the physical ID, however, is often against policy and risky. A visual inspection and registration should suffice. Medical offices. They need to verify identity for insurance and treatment purposes. Ensure they are only using it for verification, not unnecessary data harvesting. Employers. For the Form I-9, employment eligibility verification, you must provide documentation from the approved lists, e.g., passport or a driver's license plus social security card. This is federal law. The common thread. In almost all gray zone scenarios, the hidden danger is not the visual inspection, but the data collection, scanning, photocopying, or digitally storing the information on your ID. This creates a permanent record in a system that may have poor cybersecurity, lacks employee training, or questionable data retention policies. Part 3. The lawyer's question. For what specific purpose? Here is the core of your defense. The single most powerful question you can ask, in a polite and curious tone, is, can you please explain the specific purpose for which you need to scan or copy my ID? This question is transformative. It does the following. Shifts the dynamic. It moves you from a passive rule follower to an informed participant in the transaction. Forces specificity. It requires the requester to move beyond a script, it's our policy, and articulate a legitimate reason. Is it for age verification? For a warranty? For a return in a database? Exposes overreach. Their answer will immediately tell you if the request is legitimate and narrow or vague and overbroad. We need it for our marketing database. Exposes overreach. Their answer will immediately tell you if the request is legitimate and narrow or vague and overbroad. We need it for our marketing database is a glaring red flag. We need to verify your age for this alcohol sale, as required by state law, is specific and legitimate. Creates a negotiation point. Once you know the purpose, you can offer a safer alternative. For age verification. You're welcome to look at my ID to verify my age, but I do not consent to it being scanned or copied. Is visual inspection sufficient? For a return, no receipt. I understand you need to prevent fraud. Can you look up the transaction with the credit card I used instead of scanning my license into your system? For a hotel check-in, I see you need my details for the registry. Can you please just note down the required information rather than taking a photocopy? Part 4. The hidden risks of casual ID surrender. Why is this question so vital? Because the consequences of careless ID handling are severe. Identity Theft Foundation. A scanned driver's license provides name, DOB, address, and ID number. This is often enough to answer knowledge-based authentication questions used by banks and credit agencies. data brokers, and profiling. That innocent scan at an electronics store? The data can be sold to aggregators who build consumer profiles, affecting everything from insurance premiums to targeted advertising. Cloned IDs for fraud. A high-resolution scan can be used to create a fraudulent physical ID, which can then be used to open lines of credit, obtain medical services, or even commit crimes in your name. Stalking and harassment. A disgruntled employee with access to a customer database now has your home address. Data breaches. You have no control over the security of the business's database. A single breach at a mall retailer could expose the ID data of thousands. Part 5. Practical application. Scripts for common scenarios. Scenario 1. The retail return, no receipt. Clerk, I'll need to scan your driver's license for the return. You. Sure, I understand you need to prevent fraud. Can you tell me the specific purpose for scanning it? They usually say for our return authorization system. I'm not comfortable with my license data in another system. Would you be able to do a visual verification and just manually enter my name for the return, or process it for store credit instead? Scenario 2. The hotel desk. Receptionist. We need to hold your passport/driver's license until checkout. You. I'm not comfortable parting with my government ID. I understand you need to verify my identity. I'm happy for you to inspect it and make a copy for your registry if required by law, but I will need to keep the physical document with me. Is that acceptable? Scenario 3. The bar/restaurant after being carded. Server, I just need to take this to the back to scan it for our records. You? Oh, for age verification? You can check it here at the table. I don't allow my license to be scanned, but you're welcome to look it over thoroughly. Part 6. The bigger picture. Your right to privacy. Asking for what specific purpose is more than a personal tip. It is an exercise of a fundamental legal principle: data minimization. Laws like the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, and the California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, enshrine this principle. An entity should only collect the personal data that is strictly necessary for a specified, legitimate purpose. By asking this question, you're holding businesses to a higher standard. You are creating a record, even if just a mental one, of their stated purpose, which can be crucial if your data is later misused. You are voting with your actions for a world where personal data is treated with the gravity it deserves. Conclusion: empowerment through inquiry. The goal is not to be obstinate or to assume malice in every request. It is to replace blind compliance with informed consent. That plastic card in your wallet is not just an ID. It is a proxy for your legal personhood. Guard it with the same diligence you would guard the keys to your home. The Lawyer Shield is not a secret law, but a simple question. For what specific purpose? It is the question that separates a legitimate need from a lazy policy, a security measure from a privacy invasion. Start asking it. You have nothing to lose but your risk. Final call to action. So, did you guess the question right? How many times do you think you've unnecessarily scanned your ID in the last year? Share your stories and thoughts in the comments below. Let's discuss the creepiest or most unreasonable ID request you've ever gotten. And if this legal deep dive helped you, make sure to subscribe. We break down one need-to-know law every week, straight from the courtroom to your feed. Disclaimer: this article is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. The laws regarding identification can vary significantly by jurisdiction and specific circumstance. You should consult with an attorney in your area for advice regarding your individual situation.